Hello everyone, I'm Andy,
And I'm Mark.
and this is Strange Stuff Podcast.
Yes, you got here just in time.
What do you mean? I got here exactly on time.
Well, I've already had a busy morning. I've already been mounting swings in the garden.
You've been mounting a what?
A swing. You know what a swing is? For children.
Aren't you banned from having children on the property?
No, luckily my grandchildren are free to visit at any stage.
Do you know what? I bet your swing is very health and safety box checking. It's not a piece of rope tied to a tree, is it?
No, it's not a piece of rope tied to a tree, but it's very interesting you say that because I had a choice. I either went for a swing that cost over £100, 1,200,
Oh my lord.
1,200 kroner, that was approved for public places,
Fuck that. It's not for public people.
or I spent £10, 129 kroner, on a children's
Yeah.
swing from Biltema.
And you went for the publicly approved one.
No, I didn't actually. Funny enough, it wasn't. The Biltema one is more than adequate for my little grandson.
It can't be very big for a tenner.
Well, it's 2.5 meters of rope and 38 centimeters wide.
Where do you fit it up?
Well, you know, I built this pagoda.
Yeah.
So my pagoda is substantially structurally sound enough to certainly support a swing.
So is the swing inside the pagoda?
It's on the outer horizontal limb, if that's the right word.
So when he falls off, he's not going to go cracking down onto oak flooring.
No, it's outside. I mean, it's worse. It's gravel. Grus.
Oh,
But hopefully that won't happen.
of course it's going to happen. When I was a kid, we used to go to the adventure playground, which would be fucking illegal in this country. It was basically a bunch of hippies, unemployable people who the council employed to run this adventure playground. It was on Parliament Hill, just behind Parliament Hill, Lido, and it consisted of a bunch of telegraph poles. And they'd take telegraph poles and they'd construct swings out of them. They were deadly. Deadly, I tell you. There was one swing which had two platforms on different heights, like diving boards almost.
Yeah.
Two telegraphs, like 100 feet tall, one across the top and a rope dangling down the middle. And the idea was that the rope didn't quite reach the platforms. So someone passed it up, you reached forward,
And you had to jump off.
and then you threw the rope and you waited for it to come back and then you jumped off.
Perfect.
I swear, but thinking back on what we used to do in that adventure playground makes me sweat now.
Well, everything we used to do as children makes me sweat now. I mean, I used to disappear off into the woods for probably not quite the whole day, but pretty much the whole day, the woods near our, and they were called Mad Bess Woods.
Luckily, pervy Uncle Paul was always on hand to guide you out again.
So yeah, that was yeah. Anyway, times have changed, I'm afraid, Andy.
Yeah, it's a shame in many ways. I mean, I always cringe a little bit inside when I pass a children's playground and I see crash helmets and knee pads.
Yeah.
That's just...
Yeah. No, but you know, we live in that world, unfortunately. I say unfortunately. We live in that world now. It's all relative. You know, 20 years before we were young, kids were probably encouraged to play with fire.
Well, we weren't
into
encouraged, but we all were issued with a box of Swan Vestas before we left the house.
Yeah. No. Today is a different world, that's for sure.
Talking of playing with fire, Belgium are to blame.
For?
Knocking the USA out of the World Cup.
What?
After Trump cheated to get his red card overturned, Belgium beat them 4-1. So then Trump made an announcement that Belgium are only 2 weeks away from having a nuclear weapon. And when no one was swallowing that, He fucking decided to bomb Iran again.
Yeah.
Just because he's fed up with, and I quote, the scum.
Yeah. Sick people.
Honestly, it's not even funny anymore.
No, as I say, it's long past entertainment. But as long as he has this fanatical support in his home country, which he clearly does to some extent.
I hope it's not as fucking fanatical as it used to be, because if it is, there's no hope for the world.
I think he's on his lowest ratings for a president ever, but I don't know if that means anything.
It doesn't seem to mean anything, because no one holds him to account for anything.
No. And have we talked about this poor fellow Mitch McDonnell, who everybody suspects is basically he's died, or they're keeping him alive on a life support system because they don't want an election or something?
I don't know who Mitch McDonnell is.
You know, he's the old boy. He's 82 years old. He really looks haggard and old. He's a key Republican. Oh, anyway, whatever. He's on his last legs. Farage is on his last legs.
Farage is pathetic. To be honest, if you resign as an MP, you shouldn't be allowed to restand as the same MP for the same place. It should be illegal. In fact, the constituents, the taxpayers, are going to pay £250,000 to hold that by-election that he is running as a popularity contest.
But, the perfect example of the ridiculousness of Nigel Farage, he was having a go, I think it was at Sky News, because in some way they released the address of his daughter. And so I think it's Sky News. What Sky News did, they did a montage of all of the times that Nigel Farage was interviewed standing in front of his daughter's house with her car and registration number and everything. I mean, there was multiple pictures. Yeah. So it's absolutely fine when he's doing a publicity stunt or some nonsense press conference in front of his daughter. But when Sky News, I don't think they said this is where she lives, go and complain to her about her father. But it's just, it's just ridiculous. Anyway.
No, he's just a tosser.
Yeah, but I think
anyway, it would be great if the voters of Clacton decided to elect Mr. Binface.
Well, this is what I can't quite understand. Have I understood it correctly that all of the other parties are not going to participate apart from?
Yeah, they're not going to play his game. They don't want to play his game.
But what does that mean?
It means
they're voted back in.
Yes, exactly. It won't. But technically, it won't mean anything.
Oh, I see.
They're just showing their contempt at the
games.
Obvious game that he's playing.
Yeah. Oh. Well, it would be funny if Binface does get into Parliament.
That would be. I mean, in this day and age, why not? If fucking Trump can run a country, why can't a rubbish bin run Clacton?
Do we know who Bin Man is?
I think it's Trigger.
From Only Fools and Horses, is that Trigger? Well, maybe.
All right, Trig.
Yeah.
All right, Dave.
Yeah. Oh, anyway, so that's all going on. You've got Farage, you've got Trump. Is there anything else? Oh, the World Cup, of course. Yes, you've mentioned it. Belgium beat US. Argentina beat Egypt.
Nothing better could have happened. I mean, that was karma coming to kick that cheating orange turd right in the teeth. Yeah. Oh, so you want to cheat your way through the World Cup? Cheat your way out of this one.
Yeah.
4-1.
So, I don't know why I'm asking you, but do you know who England meet in the quarterfinals?
I think it's actually Norway.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
It's not. I don't think it's the semis, is it? I think it's the last 8.
8, all right.
Which is bye-bye England time,
no,
frankly.
It's not. No. We usually get into the semis of these competitions.
Here's a thing that I'm surprised you don't know.
Maybe I do. How do you know? You haven't said I could know all of these
things. Yeah, but you're a fucking toff, aren't you? And no mistake. So, How do you not know that there is a completely unseeded English guy in the fucking finals of Wimbledon?
I don't think he's unseeded, but he was.
He
100
is.
or
He
something.
was 140 something.
And now he's 35. You see, I'm completely up to it, up to speed.
Well, he's in the semi-finals, not the
He's in the
finals.
semi-finals, yes. Yeah.
And Camilla got all wet in the pants about him. We were just such a wonderful chap.
Yeah, well, I think she met him before the match and after the match.
Oh, Charlie boy, better watch out there.
Yeah.
It's all coming on top.
What's his name? Beth or Ruth?
Ferry. Arthur Ferry.
Yeah. I think there might be a little bit of a French connection there, actually.
What, is he a policeman in a drugs case?
No, I think he might be half French.
What? Oh, well, then he needs to be knocked out as quickly as possible. Can't be having that. Fucking hell, I'd rather let that jock win.
But having said that, Arthur's definitely in England. There isn't an Arthur equivalent in France.
Arturo.
It might be Arthur. Anyway, whatever. Good luck to the chap.
Now, I did read something uplifting in the Sun earlier, and I can't find it now.
It's been
Typically.
deleted.
Yeah.
Uplifting stories always get deleted straight away.
It's really annoying because I remember thinking, this is great.
What a good story.
Mark will love this.
And it's gone. Is it something to do with the voice you've taken on implies it might be to do something with Victoria Beckham?
It's nothing to do with Dave.
David Beckham, sorry. He's got the same wife. He's got the same voice as his wife. I don't know.
Hello, Dave. Nah, I've had electrocution lessons, you know.
Let's have some celebrity gossip.
Oh, celebrity gossip, never mind. But this is good news, actually. And I've found it. It was the last woman ever to be hanged in England, which we did a story about, which we did a podcast about, Ruth Ellis.
Yes, Ruth Ellis, yeah.
She has been pardoned.
Really?
Yeah, out of the blue, a parliamentary announcement was made that she's finally been pardoned. It doesn't fix anything, of course, it's too late. You know, because her crime was committing murder, of course, but the bloke she murdered had been abusing her for years, like physically and mentally.
Thank you. Yeah, if you close the door, sorry, Alex. Yes, very good.
So that was the end of that. But well done, Ruth.
Well done, Ruth Ellis. Something else happened the other day. Something about... Oh, yes. That made me think of you, funnily enough, with your Irish connections. Have we talked
Are
about
you
this
saying I'm a
before?
terrorist?
No, that the forced adoption.
Oh, yeah.
Have we talked about this? It happened in England as well. It wasn't just...
Yeah, of
Ireland.
course. It happened all over Europe, you know. And guess where all the babies were going?
I don't know what.
America. The great slave importers.
But how did they get hold of these babies?
Well, most countries, like England, had fucking workhouses for single mothers.
Right.
And they were removed from their mothers. They were just stolen.
But was there a law about this?
Yeah, the law was you're a fucking harlot and you are not to have a child. God says so. The Prime Minister says so, and we say so. So if you want your bowl of gruel, you will hand over that baby right now so it can have a proper life with a mother and a father. And you won't go to hell, probably.
But I always thought it was the Catholic Church that was behind it all in Ireland.
The Catholic Church was the prime mover in Ireland. But, I mean, I've done stories with Richard about people who were running adoption agencies in Victoria and London, where they were basically taking people's babies from families, and they were running it as a scheme where if you couldn't cope with the baby, give it to us and come back to us when you're ready and we'll give you the baby back. But as soon as the baby was gone, it was gone. It was sold, stamped and put in the post via Amazon to the highest bidder.
If that means that these poor mothers are going to get some sort of compensation for their babies having been stolen from them.
It's all too far away in the past now. None of those mothers are probably alive today.
That's a very good point, because I think it stopped in 70 something.
If you're going to do that, then we might as well pay reparations to everyone who was ever a slave from the 12th century onwards.
Not quite the same, Andy.
Oh, please don't start me.
I mean, if it happened in our generation...
Yes, if anything happened in our generation, then fair enough, reparations can be discussed.
Yeah,
but not when it happened fucking 200 years ago.
No, that's exactly my point. I'm not saying it's not justified, it's just it's more complicated to organise. All right,
yeah,
so yes,
because first of all, who's going to pay for it? I ain't.
Well, you don't live in England anymore. You're not an English taxpayer.
Thank God. Anyway, let's see what happened on this day in history.
Just a quick question for you. Are you going to be entitled to a UK pension?
Let's not go into that on air, thank you.
Dear. All right, this day in history.
In the year 1762, Catherine the Great becomes the Empress
Of
Russia, of course. Who else would call themselves the Great? We had Peter the Great, Catherine the Great, Putin the Fabulous.
Yeah.
That was after it was in fact after convincing the army to support her husband, Emperor Peter, later known as Peter the Great. The monarch.
1762.
She ruled over Russia for the next 34 years and was the country's longest ruling female leader. She actually expanded Russia in a way that would have made Putin proud. And she brought the country closer to Europe and championed the arts before she died in 1796. Now, do you remember the American president, Zachary Taylor?
No, I don't, actually.
Neither does anybody else, but apparently he died in 1850.
And how long did he serve for? 5 days?
18 months.
So that's probably not the shortest, but it's pretty close to it.
But I mean, again, he was 65 when he died, so fucking stop employing these people who shouldn't even be allowed out without a carer. There has to be a age cap on becoming president, even if it's 60, which I still believe is too old.
I wouldn't be surprised if after Trump they do actually do that. Well, you've had two. You've had Sleepy Joe Biden, and now you've got crazy Donald Trump. I think they should. I mean, I think they'll probably do it at 70 or something like that.
No, 70 is too fucking old. Honestly, I wouldn't put me in charge of anything, and I'm not even 70.
Yeah, but you act like a 70-year-old the way you rant about everything.
No, I act like a 7-year-old.
Yes.
Let's get it right. Apparently, Taylor grew ill after consuming cherries and iced milk during 4th of July celebrations.
What do you mean she was at her wedding?
Not Taylor Swift, Zachary Taylor, President of the United States.
I see.
What is your fucking problem with Taylor Swift? What has she ever done to you?
Don't have anything against her. Sorry, he died of eating strawberries and ice.
Strawberries and iced milk. Cherries and iced milk.
Maybe he was allergic to the cherries or something.
Well, they claimed he was actually assassinated with arsenic. But a test of his bonios in 1991 found very low levels of the poison.
Well, arsenic isn't fast-acting, is it?
No.
Arsenic
is one of those things that you feed people over time.
Exactly,
let it build up in the system.
Yeah.
On a happier note, but also a sad note, in 1856, Nikola Tesla was born.
Now, he invented
everything that Edison claimed to invent, basically.
No, he didn't. Not the record player or the light bulb.
When it came to electricity, Tesla was the man. He invented alternating current.
Right.
Which was so much safer than direct current, but because of politicals, it was dismissed.
Yeah.
He also invented free energy, which the government stole and covered up before assassinating him.
Yeah.
He died in poverty and near anonymity. But today, we all know that he was a fucking historic inventor who was decades ahead of his time.
I saw a recent article about really significant inventions that history understands were invented by men, and in fact it was women who invented them.
That never happened. Was it written by a women's?
You can just imagine. Any woman who invented something in 1890, they're not going to get credit for it.
What were they doing out of the kitchen?
Yeah, well, that's
That's
right.
the first question you have to ask yourself.
Yeah, yeah.
And on this day, funnily enough, in 1877, the first ever Wimbledon tournament took place. And it was held on a croquet lawn at the All England Croquet Lawn Tennis Club.
It wasn't called that then, was it?
No,
Or
it
maybe
was. It was called the All England Croquet and Lawn Tennis Club.
All right, but it was the first Wimbledon Championships.
Yeah. Since then, of course, thanks to health and safety, croquet has been banned. You can't be running around here with them hammers.
And who won? Obviously, you've got that.
Yeah, it was Mildred O'Shaughnessy. How would I know?
Another sporting event that's going on at the moment that you're obviously aware of, that's right up my strasse. What's happening in England at the moment?
Is it?
Bearing in mind I'm asking, what's the clue? Well, that's the clue.
Is it the BBC Pedo Finals?
I thought you were going to say something like the Windsor Polo World Cup or something.
No, that would be the water polo.
No, it's Henley.
Rowing?
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah. It's
That's
Henley
not a
Regatta,
sport,
isn't
is it? That's like saying darts is a sport.
it? What are you talking about?
Rowing is the upper class equivalent of darts. You have a couple of pins, get the buzz on. How do you do the perfect posh face?
I don't know how to do a posh accent.
You freeze frame halfway through a sneeze.
Oh dear, there have been some cracking races actually. I have watched a few of them. Even a few crashes. There have been a few pile-ups. It would have been entertaining.
That's what I mean, it's too many pims. It's like with the darts, sometimes somebody gets one in the face.
I don't think so. I don't think that's ever happened in any competition ever, that someone has got a dart in the face.
I bet I could find one. I bet I
Bet
could.
You couldn't.
Anyway, his good news story. Gary Hoy. You don't know who he is?
No, I know
My
who Chris
lord.
Hoy is.
93. Canadian lawyer Gary Hoy fell from the 24th floor of the Toronto Dominion Bank Tower after trying to demonstrate, thank you Darwin,
The windows.
how strong the windows were.
Yeah. That story I do know. He'd done it several times. I mean, he used to, people came in for a meeting or something and he'd throw himself against the window to show how strong the windows were. And eventually...
Well, I'm afraid that's natural selection.
It is. It's a perfect example of Darwinian theory.
And there was another example of Darwinian theory in the newspapers today, which of course I can't find. But do you remember we talked about this looksmaxing thing, where people hit themselves in the face with a hammer to reshape that? No, it's true. It's absolutely
must have spoken
true.
about that with Peter. I would definitely remember. Richard, I must have remembered.
No, this is
that.
true. It's looksmaxing, it's called.
Oh, looksmaxing. Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
Where you hit yourself in the face with a hammer to reshape your bone structure to change the way you look. And these fucking scientific surgeons smashed themselves in the face with a Stanley and reshape.
No, but
Anyway.
these are obviously unwell people.
One of these looksmaxing influencers got himself chased by the police in Thailand for some reason, which we won't know about probably because it will make me laugh again, and managed to run into a lake and drown.
Looksmaxing.
And you wouldn't believe this guy had millions of followers on fucking Twitter or Instagram or whatever.
What?
Because he hits himself in the face with a hammer. What the fuck has happened to our world?
What I think should be a prerequisite for any plastic surgery or what's that stuff, Botoxy stuff, I think everybody should be submitted to an intelligence test and a general knowledge test.
Unfortunately,
if they don't get 80%,
Unfortunately, we don't have anyone left who is clever enough to devise such a test. Mankind has sunk so low into the mire now that there is no bar to be set.
How would you score?
Come on, I am so intelligent. And I'm already maxed on looks, so you wouldn't find me smashing myself in the face with a hammer.
What would you change? If there was one bit that you thought of changing, what would it be?
The size of my wallet.
Yes, actually. That's a good one, in fact.
I would have the most enormous wallet. I wouldn't change anything. I mean, learn to love yourself, man. The world would be such a better place if people didn't fucking strive and yearn to be something they aren't.
Well, funnily enough, I totally agree with you as far as looks are concerned. But as far as knowledge, wisdom...
No, absolutely. Aspire to be smarter.
Aspire
to be smarter, but be smarter with whatever boat race the Lord blessed you with or cursed you with, depending.
Yeah.
And in fact, being an unusual looking person is so much more interesting than being, look, she looks just like all the other housewives on the Real Housewives of fucking Who Gives a Toss.
Talking about looks, and normally I would never ever comment on these things, but have you seen quite often when Trump is being interviewed in the Oval Office, there is a woman standing behind Trump?
I never watch any of that stuff, so I wouldn't know.
Because it's like a caricature of someone who wears too much makeup.
Yeah, like Donald Trump.
Really dark eyes, bright red lips. She's always, laughing at just the right moment. She does not look well.
She's his fluffer. She gives him a little nosh before the cameras start rolling. That's all that's about. Hello, Mr. Trump. Oh, tastes like pumpkin today, sir. Oh, I think someone needs to change a nappy.
I mean, as I say, I would never comment normally, but the fact she's standing behind Trump very often looking completely weird.
Anyway, you're going to moan if we don't start soon because we're going to go over.
No, we're not. No, 10 o'clock. You've got 29 minutes. 28 minutes and 15 seconds.
I've got an hour if you say 10 o'clock.
No, I don't. Oh, you're right. I'm looking at the wrong thing. I've got visitors. You're lucky I don't have to cook lunch.
You had visitors on Monday. You can't just keep using this as an excuse.
I've got to mount another swing.
I'm gonna swat you if you carry on with this visitor nonsense.
I don't know what SWAT it. What's SWAT?
That's when I call SWAT and tell them that there's an armed man prowling around your house.
Ah, yes, that's right. That's a bit of a trend these days in the States, calling the SWAT team.
Yeah, it's not a trend anymore because there have been, of course, fatal incidents where the SWAT team swatted the wrong house and shot a completely innocent man while he was standing on his doorstep, and he happened to be an Indian man.
And did the person who did the swatting, if that's the right phrase, did they get prosecuted for a swatting?
Certainly not to the extent where anyone's in prison, I don't think. After all, it was just an Indian.
Aren't we on part 2 of something today?
No, we're not, because that happened on our Patreon episode. And I can't do part 1 on Patreon and then part 2 out to the other 5 listeners because they won't know where they stand. So we have to wait until Monday for part 2.
The chronology of your stories is such no one would know whether you were at the beginning, middle or end anyway.
I can't remember what we were even talking about, so I'll have to watch the bloody episode myself to catch up. But anyway, today we're going to talk about something very strange. It's possibly internet. Yeah, in fact it is. It's a legend or a story that originated from the internet and has grown on the internet and has become a real thing. And it has even now spawned a movie.
So it started off as completely fictional, turned
Possibly,
into reality,
possibly.
and then they made a movie of it.
I mean, it started off, as many of these stories do, as... We'll go into it. And it's known as the elevator game. Have you heard?
No. Maybe, I don't think so, no.
Well, there are stories that are sort of designed to exist and be shared in whispers. And not because anyone truly believes them, but because repeating them feels strangely irresistible. And they spread through late night conversations, anonymous message boards, and videos watched alone at night with the lights off. They're the kind of stories that invite the question, what if? The elevator game is one of those stories. Unlike tales of haunted houses or cursed objects, the elevator game comes with a set of instructions. It promises that if you follow a precise sequence of actions inside an elevator, you'll reach a place that doesn't exist, a world that resembles our own but actually isn't. Some people call it another dimension, others describe it as a parallel reality. And skeptics, of course, dismiss it as an elaborate urban legend fueled by coincidence and suggestion. But regardless of what you believe, something is undeniable.
And that is...
Over the last 2 decades, thousands of people across the world have played the elevator game, or claim to. Many insist nothing happened at all. Others describe unsettling experiences that they struggle to explain. And a small number tell stories so disturbing that they have become legends in their own right. So today we're going to explore where this came from, why so many people continue to try it, and the stories that transformed a little-known internet post into one of the most famous paranormal games ever created. Kind of the internet's version of the Ouija board.
Slight exaggeration, maybe.
Just because you haven't heard of it. I mean, you haven't heard of 98.17% of everything we talk about.
Carry on.
If it wasn't in Wimbledon, Oxford, Eton or BBC, then it didn't really happen.
Are you going to tell us what the game is?
Yes, but first, throughout history,
God.
we've recreated elaborate ceremonies to gain knowledge, protection, luck, or contact with forces beyond ordinary life. Ancient civilizations developed rituals involving fire, mirrors, circles, chants, and sacred buildings. And whether these practices held supernatural power or simply reflected cultural beliefs is a matter of perspective. But they all had one common feature. They relied on rules. You have to do this, don't do that, speak these words, never look back. Now, the stricter the rules, the more believable the ritual became. And modern folklore has inherited this structure. So instead of handwritten grimoires on human skin with human blood, we have online forums. And the elevator game belongs to an entire family of internet rituals. If you've ever spent any time exploring paranormal communities, I have, you have not, you've probably encountered games with names like the Midnight Game, One Man Hide and Seek.
No.
This one you have played, the Closet Game. Each claims to open a passageway or a doorway to something unknown if performed correctly.
Narnia.
Yeah, maybe. They're often presented as instructions rather than stories. And that format makes them feel strangely authentic. Reading a ghost story is one thing, but reading a list of exact steps feels a bit different. So it almost resembles a scientific experiment run by experts. Follow the procedure, observe the results, and report what happened. And that subtle difference helps explain why these rituals spread so effectively. The elevator game follows this formula, and according to the most common version, a person has to enter an elevator alone in a building with at least 10 floors. The player then presses a specific sequence of floor numbers. If another person enters the elevator at the wrong time, the ritual will fail. If everything happens correctly, strange events are expected to begin. One variation claims that a mysterious woman may enter the elevator during the sequence. The instructions are very clear. Do not acknowledge her, do not speak to her, do not make eye contact. If the ritual succeeds, the elevator supposedly arrives somewhere impossible. The descriptions vary from storyteller to storyteller, but several of the details appear repeatedly. The city outside appears empty, electronics malfunction, the atmosphere feels unnaturally quiet. Lights flicker or disappear into darkness. Some players report seeing a distant red cross glowing on the horizon. Others claim that they experience an overwhelming sense that something is watching them. Eventually, the player is instructed to reverse the sequence and return home. One warning appears almost everywhere. If anything tries to stop you from leaving, do not listen.
Stop you from leaving what? The elevator?
No, the place that you've ended up. People hear voices of people they know calling to them. That's one thing that tries to stop you leaving. Do not go.
So you're talking the elevator turns into some sort of portal?
No, yes, and that's not too hard to believe.
Oh no, I believe it straight away. It makes perfect sense to me.
Now,
if a strange woman gets into the elevator with you, don't start talking to her. Who would? How often do you start talking to perfect strangers in elevators?
Me, I'm guilty.
You start talking to perfect strangers in elevators in
If
such
it's
a closed space.
If it's a very attractive woman, yes, it's been known.
And have you been prosecuted for this sort of activity in the past?
No, but I have been rewarded. Whether these rules are designed to entertain, frighten, or genuinely warn people is impossible to know.
But hang on, you haven't given us the bloody sequence of things you have to do.
I will, but not yet. Anyway, I don't want to be responsible for you going to another dimension.
When was the last time I was in a building with 10 floors, for God's sake?
Oh yeah, we live in Sweden. We haven't got any of those. The earliest version of the elevator game don't really appear in printed books or television programs. They only ever emerged online. Most researchers trace the story back to South Korea during the early 2000s. And at that time, South Korea had one of the fastest growing internet populations in the world. Online forums were flourishing. Anonymous communities discussed everything from technology and gaming to horror stories and paranormal experiences. And technically, if you want to get racist about it, the Koreans do love a ghost story.
Well, I don't think that's racist.
No, but sort of racial profiling, I guess.
What do you mean? Why are you saying Koreans like a ghost story?
They have a very rich ghost and spirit history, a spirit-enriched history.
Korea?
Yeah, Korea. Seriously. It's like most of Asia. Well, South Korea, clearly, because we wouldn't know if it was in North Korea.
All right.
Nobody would tell us. Anyway, it was the perfect environment for modern folklore. Unlike traditional legends that spread slowly over generations, such as, if you don't clean your ears, potatoes will grow in them. Remember that one?
What did they say? No, I don't remember that.
No, of course not, because Nanny kept your ears spotless.
Potatoes.
Mark, come here so I can Q-tip the feck out of your ears. Yes, Nanny, I won't. One user would post an experience, another one then would add details to it for some reason, and someone else would claim to have tested it. Soon, dozens of slightly different versions existed simultaneously. Pinpointing the exact first appearance of the elevator game is basically impossible now. Some archived forum posts, reference a mysterious elevator ritual years before it became internationally known, But many of those websites have disappeared, and others were never archived at all. What survives are basically fragments of translations, screenshots, retellings, and as the story spread beyond South Korea, details changed. Some versions required 11 floors, some required 10. Some issued different button sequences, but the mysterious woman appeared in certain tellings, but not in others. And the differences are pretty typical of urban legends. Contrary to popular belief, inconsistency doesn't weaken folklore. Instead, it often strengthens it. Every retelling feels slightly personal, and every storyteller adds something new. As a result, the legend remains alive rather than fixed. By the late 2000s, English-speaking paranormal forums had begun discussing the elevator game with growing interest. Anonymous users claimed they had tried it. Some reported failure. Others described unsettling coincidences. One person claimed their ears suddenly began ringing. Another insisted the elevator behaved unpredictably. Someone else described feeling overwhelming dread despite nothing unusual occurring. And these accounts rarely included evidence, and none of them could be verified. They shared something important. They sounded sincere. And that's one reason the elevator game has remained compelling. Many internet horror stories announce themselves as a fiction, but the elevator game usually doesn't. Instead, it's presented through ordinary language. It starts with, "I tried this. My friend experienced something strange. I don't know what happened." And those statements invite others to decide for themselves. And because people naturally remember unusual experiences more vividly than ordinary ones, the dramatic stories spread much farther than the uneventful ones. Imagine two people attempting the ritual. The first one rides the elevator for 15 minutes, becomes bored, and goes home. The second one notices the lights flicker once, hears a mechanical noise, and later convinces themselves that something impossible almost happened. Which story goes online? Which one becomes a video? And which one gains millions of views? The answer's obvious.
Hang on. There's YouTube videos of this going on.
Yes, people have done themselves playing the elevator game on YouTube. Honestly, you'll find millions of them. So the elevator game exploded in popularity during the rise of YouTube, specifically. Creators filmed themselves attempting the ritual in apartment buildings, hotels, office blocks and abandoned structures. Some uploaded raw footage, others created cinematic-type documentaries.
Cinematic, Hollywood style.
Many claimed success, many admitted failure. Some disappeared from the internet altogether, adding another layer of mystery that audiences eagerly filled with speculation. But in reality, people just stop posting online for countless ordinary reasons. They lose interest, they change hobbies, they delete accounts. But once a supernatural story gains momentum, ordinary explanations often become the least satisfying. Silence itself becomes evidence, and the legend feeds on uncertainty. The elevator game also arrived at exactly the right moment, because the internet had become deeply fascinated with liminal spaces, empty hallways, vacant hotels, office buildings at night, places that should be full of people but aren't. Elevators fit perfectly into that aesthetic. They're transitional spaces. You enter one place and you leave somewhere else. For a brief moment, you're suspended between destinations, and perhaps that's why elevators have appeared in horror stories for decades, because they're enclosed, they're unpredictable, controlled by invisible machinery hidden behind walls.
Hang on a second, what's unpredictable about getting into an elevator?
You don't know.
An elevator, you press button 7, it goes to the 7th floor. What's unpredictable about that?
Not always. Have you never been in an elevator that has behaved strangely? I know I have.
You know you have.
I have.
Yeah, that's when you woke up in an elevator having passed out through alcohol consumption.
It was drugs, but yeah.
What do you mean it's unpredictable? You can't get much more predictable than the bloody elevator.
I'm sorry, but I'm sure that 99% of the real world have got into an elevator that has gone down instead of up.
Well, that's not unpredictable. Well, it's unpredictable, but it's completely understandable.
Ah ha ha ha! You've just said that it does do unpredictable things.
God. It doesn't move
It's
sideways,
all fake news.
does it?
It's
What?
It doesn't move sideways, does it? It still goes up or down.
Does it? Sometimes it does move sideways
Actually,
through
there
different
are
dimensions.
There are lifts that go sideways, actually. You're right.
So you surrender control the moment the doors close. And in fact, an elevator is a perfect example of a liminal space, because once those doors shut, whoever is inside those elevator suddenly becomes Schrodinger's cat. And the whole process is inverted, because now, inside the elevator, nothing outside exists until those doors open.
What are you talking about?
You know the story of Schrodinger's cat?
No, tell me.
Really? When you put a cat in the box,
Yeah.
and you close the box,
Yeah.
and you don't know until you open the box if the cat is in the box.
Of course you do.
Schrodinger's cat. How do you know?
Because you put it in there.
You don't get the whole idea of the experiment. You should bone up on your experts a bit more. After this show, your homework is to do the Schrodinger's cat experiment.
That's as ludicrous as that idea that if you're not in the forest, you can't hear the woodpecker. The woodpecker doesn't make a sound.
It's if a tree falls in the forest and nobody is there to hear it, does it make a sound?
Yeah, exactly. Well, of course it does. Why is your presence relevant to the sound being made?
Because what the inference is that the sound is being made for your benefit.
Exactly. How pompous or inflation of your own importance. People should understand their own insignificance.
Wow. And that's Mark's pep talk for today. Believe in yourself. Understand your own significance, you nothing.
Yeah.
So most of the time, of course, nothing unusual happens, but the possibility lingers.
Of course, there's always a possibility, absolutely.
If just once the elevator stopped somewhere impossible. And that question lies at the heart of the elevator game. Not because the story offers proof, but because it offers possibility. And possibility is often far more powerful than certainty. As the legend spread from forum to forum and country to country, it picked up something even more compelling than anonymous eyewitnesses. It gained stories, not fictional tales, openly presented as entertainment, but personal accounts from people who insisted they had followed the ritual exactly and that what happened next had changed the way they viewed reality forever.
100% believable. I believe every one of them.
Good, because you're going to have to after I tell you these stories. Now, whether these stories describe genuine paranormal encounters, psychological experiences or misunderstandings, or even deliberate fiction, remains fiercely debated. But together, they transformed a simple list of elevator instructions into one of the internet's most enduring modern legends. And that's where we're turning next. If the elevator game had remained nothing more than an obscure list of instructions buried on an odd internet forum, it's unlikely that anyone would remember it today. Instructions on their own rarely survive, but stories do. People remember the account of the friend who vanished for 3 days. They remember the traveller who claimed to step into an empty city. They remember the woman who insisted she returned home only to spend weeks feeling as though something had followed her back. Whether any of these stories are true is another matter entirely. But what matters is that these stories gave the ritual a life of its own. As the elevator game spread beyond South Korea, the instructions became almost secondary. The real attraction became the experiences. Hundreds of anonymous posts written by people who claimed that they had tried it. Some were only a few sentences long, others read like diary entries. Many contradicted each other, but despite these differences, several themes appeared again and again. The first was an overwhelming sense of dread. Players frequently described a sensation that began before anything unusual actually happened. They would step into the elevator expecting nothing more than a stupid experiment. And then somewhere in the sequence of pressing buttons and watching doors open and close, they would feel an almost instinctive urge to stop. And then it was compared by some to stage fright. Others described it as the unmistakable certainty that they were making a terrible mistake.
Yeah, but these are obviously mentally sensitive people who are self-perpetuating their own outcomes.
Objectively, there's nothing supernatural about fear.
Exactly.
The human brain is remarkably sensitive to expectation. If someone walks into a supposedly haunted building at midnight, your heart rate will increase. Every second seems louder. Every shadow appears darker, and your expectation changes perception.
I mean, I don't want to knock these people, but if you're stupid enough to believe that pressing a series of buttons in an elevator is going to take you to a different bloody dimension, then really you've got bigger problems than what happens to you as a result of pressing those buttons, that's for sure.
Well, when you press a series of buttons on your computer keyboard, you get transported to other dimensions.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you very much. Yeah, why do you need to get into an elevator to do it?
Because these ones you can actually physically walk into. So expectation changes perception, but that doesn't make the experience any less real. The fear is genuine, and the pounding heartbeat is genuine. The sense that someone is standing just outside your field of vision is genuine. The question is simply what caused it. For believers, that feeling is interpreted as the ritual beginning to work. For skeptics, it's exactly what we'd expect from someone performing an unsettling psychological exercise. Then there are reports involving the elevator itself. One anonymous account tells of an elevator stopping repeatedly on empty floors. The doors would slide open, no one would enter, no one would leave. After several seconds, the doors would quietly close again. On paper, that's not unusual. Elevators occasionally stop because another button has been pressed, or because of maintenance programming, or because of brief mechanical quirks. But context, of course, changes everything. If you're simply riding to work, you probably shrug and check your phone. If you're convinced you're in the middle of a paranormal ritual, every unexpected stop feels significant. Several witnesses describe hearing sounds they couldn't identify, a knock, footsteps, or whispering. One person claimed they heard someone breathing outside the elevator, despite seeing an empty hallway. Another insisted they could hear footsteps following the elevator from floor to floor. Again, none of these accounts can be verified, but together they establish a pattern. The elevator game wasn't just supposed to transport you somewhere impossible. It was supposed to make you question everything you experienced before you ever got there.
Am I misreading this? But all the evidence you're giving actually dispels this as complete and utter bullshit.
No.
If the peak story in conclusion is that the elevator stopped on an empty floor, is that it?
No.
That's the other dimension that you're going to, is it? That's as exciting. The elevator stopped at an empty floor.
Well, I mean, that in itself,
transported to another dimension.
That in itself, whilst terrifying, is not actually the peak of this story.
Well, let's cut to the peak, because so far it's been pretty...
Look, just because you are so closed-minded to anything outside the ordinary, if it's not taxable, it doesn't exist. Now, perhaps the most famous element of the ritual...
Oh, no. Is this the most famous outcome or the most famous element?
The most famous element
All right, yeah.
is the mysterious woman. Depending on which version of the story you read, she enters the elevator during a particular stage of the sequence. She's often described in similar ways. She's either a young woman, long dark hair, ordinary clothing, nothing outwardly threatening except for one detail. Players are instructed to ignore her completely. You're not allowed to look at her. Do not answer if she speaks. Do not acknowledge her presence.
Yes. Completely normal behaviour. Yes.
The instructions never clearly explain why.
Why? Why? Because it's common sense. It's normal bloody behaviour in an elevator.
Elevator etiquette.
Yes.
Is just embarrassing. It's so un-British. You should at least discuss the weather in an elevator.
Don't be mad. People haven't got time to discuss the bloody elevator. You don't strike up a conversation with someone in an elevator for one very good reason. You don't know where the hell they're getting off. There's no point in starting talking about the weather, the door's open and she's out the door.
Lovely day today. Bye.
Exactly. And even what she looked like. You said she could be a young woman with long blonde hair. Or
dark
maybe
hair.
She could be an older woman with short blonde hair. I mean, what possible relevance has a woman getting into the elevator? It's just nothing.
Some versions claim she isn't human.
I'm sure they do.
Others suggest she's merely a guide.
Guide to what? Elevator.
A few imply she's testing whether the player deserves to continue. And the ambiguity is what makes her especially unsettling. Monsters are frightening because they look dangerous.
No,
Ordinary
they're
people
monsters,
who
these
might...
people. Where did the
Ordinary
monster element
people...
come from?
Ordinary people who might not be ordinary are often even more disturbing. It's worth noting that almost no first-hand account describes this woman in exactly the same way. Some people do say she appeared elderly. Others describe a teenager or a businesswoman, someone crying, someone smiling. One narrator even claimed she looked exactly like his sister. I think he needs to go and get help.
But what happened with these women? Did their heads spin round or something?
These inconsistencies suggest that a figure functions less as a fixed character and more as a symbol, the unknown taking a familiar shape.
A symbol of what?
A symbol of your fear. A symbol of your mortality.
I was talking about these people need help. You're in an elevator, a woman gets in and you get frightened.
Well, it would appear so if you're going to just clam up and look at the floor. You're frightened of something.
I think there's been something that's been lost in translation from South Korea, seriously.
Interestingly, psychologists have long documented how low expectation influences perception. When people are primed to anticipate a specific event, they're significantly more likely to interpret ambiguous situations as affirmations of that expectation. But that doesn't mean people are lying, because memory itself is surprisingly flexible, especially during stressful experiences. And as more people attempted the elevator game, the stories became increasingly dramatic. One anonymous writer claimed the doors eventually opened.
Excuse me.
Wow.
I think I burped.
Yeah, I know you did. And so does the rest of the known world now. One anonymous writer claimed the doors eventually opened onto a hallway illuminated by dim red lighting. Everything appeared normal, but something felt profoundly wrong. The air seemed heavy. The silence was complete. The player stepped outside briefly before becoming overwhelmed by panic and returning to the elevator. They later admitted they couldn't identify a single objectively strange detail. There were 3 walls, there was carpet, there were doors, exit signs, nothing impossible. No ghosts, no impossible landscapes, just an overwhelming feeling that reality itself had shifted slightly out of alignment. And many horror writers understand that reality itself often creates more fear than certainty. The unknown is difficult for the mind to process. Our brains constantly try to make sense of incomplete information, and when they fail, anxiety fills the gap. As years passed, online communities began collecting these stories together, and patterns were emerging. People claimed watches stopped working, phone batteries drained unusually quickly, time seemed distorted, objects appeared slightly different after returning home, friends behaved strangely, streetlights seemed unusually bright, animals reacted unexpectedly. And most of these claims, of course, are impossible to investigate. Few included photographs, and even fewer included timestamps or independent witnesses. But they accumulated. Each story strengthened the legend, not through evidence, but through repetition. Eventually, the elevator game became attached to one of the internet's most persistent misconceptions. It centred on a tragic death that occurred in 2013. And we did do, in one of our episodes, a story on this particular place and this particular instance. A young Canadian student named Elisa Lam was staying at the Cecil Hotel in Los Angeles when she disappeared. And you may not remember this episode, but security footage later showed her inside an elevator behaving in ways that many viewers found unusual. She appeared to press multiple buttons. She stepped in and out of the elevator repeatedly. She looked down the hallway. She gestured with her hands, and eventually she left the elevator. Weeks later, she was found dead in a water tank on the roof of the Cecil Hotel. Do you remember the story? The water tank itself was pretty much inaccessible if you were on your own. It sort of took two people to access the top of the water tank and lower yourself in, and she was butt naked in the water tank. It was a very strange story, and the case itself attracted international attention. Authorities concluded that her death was accidental, and her behaviour has often been discussed in connection with mental illness, particularly because she had a documented history of bipolar disorder. But there was no evidence that the elevator game played any role in the case, but online speculation connected the two because of the elevator footage and the timing of the legend's growing popularity. Despite the lack of evidence, countless videos, blog posts and social media threads claimed that she had attempted the ritual. Some even presented fabricated timelines and altered details to support the theory. And once misinformation becomes attached to a compelling mystery, it can be remarkably difficult to separate fact from fiction. So in reality,
in fiction,
there is no credible evidence linking Elisa Lam to the elevator game. The association appears to have emerged after her death through internet speculation rather than documented fact. Ironically, that false connection probably did more to popularise the elevator game than any anonymous forum post ever could.
I hope you are going to release the name of this movie that's been made about the elevator game so I can avoid it like the plague.
I had to watch it.
You've watched it?
Had to. Fuck me, it was a difficult couple of hours.
For God's sake, Andy,
I had to do my research. You always accuse me of never doing research, and there I was, researching away. Anyway, we'll go into that maybe later.
Maybe later? There is no later.
Millions of people who had never heard of the ritual suddenly encountered it while searching for information about the Cecil Hotel case, and the legend reached an entirely new audience. And from that point forward, thousands of more people decided to try the game for themselves. Some approached it as entertainment, others genuinely believed and hoped that they might encounter something extraordinary. Most experienced absolutely nothing. A smaller number returned with stories that seemed impossible to ignore. And among those accounts were a handful so strange that, true or not, they've become permanent fixtures of the internet folklore. By the mid-2010s, the elevator game had become much more than an obscure internet ritual. It had become a challenge. Videos were appearing on YouTube. Discussion threads multiplied across paranormal forums. And anonymous users were posting long, detailed accounts of what they insisted had happened after following the ritual exactly. Some were almost certainly fictional, others were impossible to verify, and a few were so ordinary they sounded believable simply because they had no dramatic endings. Taken together, these stories revealed something interesting. There's no monsters, they rarely describe violence. All they describe really is uncertainty, and uncertainty has always been one of humanity's greatest fears. One of the earliest recurring stories involves what players call the silent floor. In these accounts, the elevator doors eventually open onto a hallway that appears completely normal. The carpet's clean, the lights work, the walls are painted in neutral colours, nothing obviously unusual, until the player steps outside. And they notice the silence first, not the ordinary quiet of an empty building, a deeper silence, no ventilation systems, no distant conversations, no traffic outside, no humming of electricity, no footsteps, nothing. One anonymous poster wrote that the silence became so intense they could hear their own heartbeat echoing in their ears. Another became convinced that they had gone deaf. Only after returning to the elevator did ordinary sounds gradually return. Now, could this happen naturally? Absolutely. Many office buildings become remarkably quiet during the middle of the night. Hotels often have long stretches without any activity, and combined with heightened anxiety, that silence can feel almost supernatural. Another frequently reported experience involves altered perception of time. One player claimed that the ritual lasted nearly 2 hours. When they checked their phone afterwards, only 18 minutes had passed.
How can you spend 18 minutes in an elevator?
There is a sequence of floors that you have to go through. It's like 4, 2, 6, 2, blah, de blah. 5, which is the important one, and then 2, and if you've done it right, when you press 2, the elevator will rise to the 10th floor instead of going down to the 2nd floor. That's when you know.
That's when you know the bloody poor old elevator's confused with all these conflicting instructions. I'm not surprised it goes wrong.
Another player insisted they'd been inside the building for less than half an hour, but family members claimed they'd been gone all night. And these stories appear repeatedly in paranormal folklore. Time distortion is reported in alien encounters, ghost sightings, and near-death experiences, as well as dreams. Interestingly, psychologists have long recognised that our perception of time is surprisingly unreliable. I mean, you, for instance, feel like you've been here for hours.
And soon I will be.
During moments of intense emotion, minutes can feel like hours. Conversely, long periods of concentration may seem to disappear in an instant. Memory doesn't always record time accurately, especially during stressful situations. Still, these explanations rarely satisfy someone convinced that they're experiencing something impossible. Then there are the stories involving electronics, and these are among the most common. Phones freezing, screens going black, compasses spinning. I mean, when was the last time you saw your compass just spinning?
When was the last time I used a compass?
Cameras
Cameras
refusing to focus. One particularly detailed account describes a fully charged phone discharging to 1% battery immediately after the elevator doors opened. The player claimed everything returned to normal once they left the building. Modern electronics occasionally malfunction for entirely ordinary reasons: cold temperatures, old batteries, Software errors and poor signal can all produce unexpected behaviour. But when these problems occur during a ritual that's already designed to make you hyper-aware of anomalies, coincidence can quickly become evidence in the mind of the observer. And perhaps the most unsettling reports involve encounters with other people, or rather, people who don't seem quite right. One writer described exiting into an otherwise empty floor before spotting a man standing motionless at the end of the hallway. He wasn't facing them, and he wasn't moving. He simply stood there. After several seconds, the player became uncomfortable and returned to the elevator. As the door closed, they claimed the man slowly turned his head towards them. Nothing else happened. But years later, the writer insisted it remained the most frightening experience of their life. Another account tells of a receptionist sitting behind a brightly lit desk. The player waved. The receptionist didn't respond. Not because she ignored them, but because she never moved at all. The narrator compared her to a mannequin, perfectly still, perfectly silent, unable or unwilling to acknowledge another human being. It's impossible to know whether these stories describe genuine experiences, embellished memories, creative writing, or something else entirely. But they share a common emotional bond. The familiar becomes unfamiliar.
So, sorry, you've actually included a story about someone who's on an elevator, the door opens, the receptionist ignores them, and they get back in the elevator. And that constitutes
it was the demeanour of the receptionist, the fact that she was sitting at a desk, absolutely still, not acknowledging her surroundings or anyone around her, and unresponsive when she was waved at.
You have to admit, even you're struggling a bit now. This is worse than... I mean, it's just... Can we just get to the name of the movie to avoid and call it a day?
No.
I'm starting to... I think I must have partaken in this elevator game because I'm starting to feel very anxious. I've lost all sense of time. I think we're in a loop that we're just going to be stuck in this thing forever.
You are so closed-minded. I'm offering you a portal to another dimension, a whole new world.
The portal opens, you see a receptionist sitting there who ignores you. The portal closes and it's the most frightening experience.
Would it not creep you out if the doors opened and there was a man standing at the other end of the hallway, facing the other way, just standing there not moving?
No.
Why?
Unless his head was spinning. If his head was spinning...
What is he waiting for? Is he waiting for you, perhaps?
Or is he just waiting for someone to answer the door? He's probably waiting for the bloody lift because this idiot has been playing this stupid game, bouncing between floors, not surprised.
But he's at the other end of the hallway.
God, dear.
The ordinary places become subtly wrong, and that's often far more disturbing than obvious horror.
I completely agree. This is horrific. Now, the name of the movie is...
Among all reported experiences, one detail appears with remarkable consistency: the feeling of being watched. And this isn't about a movie. I used the movie as part of the research into the elevator game.
Look,
it's not the other way around.
This is spooky. This is really spooky. This has taken so long. My watch has reacted to the story and it's saying time to stand.
Oh my God.
That's pretty spooky, isn't it? Time to stand, it says.
Honestly, I give up.
Yeah.
Players describe it in different ways. Some say they sense someone standing directly behind them despite seeing nobody.
We're still carrying on.
Yes, we are. I am not finished with this episode just because you are fucking too terrified to continue. You're clearly never going to enter an elevator again, despite your bravado. Others felt eyes following them through empty hallways. Several admitted they became too frightened to continue because they couldn't shake the certainty that another presence occupied the building. And that sensation is well documented outside of paranormal context. Neuroscientists have studied what's sometimes called the felt presence phenomenon. A compelling impression that another person or being is nearby even though nobody is present. It has been reported by mountain climbers experiencing exhaustion, sailors alone at sea, people under extreme stress, and individuals suffering from sleep deprivation. The experience feels completely real. But that doesn't...
Why is this relevant to people getting in an elevator?
Because they feel they're being watched. Or that somebody...
These are people up a mountain or extreme sleep deprivation.
I told you it's a psychological... It's a psychological fact, the felt presence. It happens to people.
Irrelevant.
It's not. It happens to people in other situations. I'm explaining.
Like getting into an elevator.
Lordy God. It is relevant. You wouldn't understand, but ask Nanny to explain it to you later. The experience feels completely real, but it doesn't necessarily reveal its cause. One particularly famous online account came from a user who claimed they successfully reached what they called the other place. According to the story, the city outside looked almost identical to their own, except the streets were empty. The traffic lights cycled through colours for cars that never arrived. Storefronts remained illuminated despite the complete absence of people. The sky appeared darker than normal, and in the distance, a single enormous red cross glowed against the horizon. And that image has become one of the defining symbols of the elevator game. Interestingly, the earlier versions of the ritual rarely mention it. The red cross became increasingly common only after later retellings appeared across international forums. So whether it emerged from one storyteller or evolved collectively is impossible to determine. Either way, it demonstrates how the folklore changes over time. If one compelling image is repeated often enough, it gradually becomes part of that legend itself. Another recurring claim involves overwhelming difficulty leaving. Several narrators describe suddenly forgetting the instructions. Others say they became convinced they should stay just a little bit longer. One writer claimed he felt an irresistible urge to continue exploring despite increasing fear. Only after remembering the ritual's warnings did they rush back to the elevator. Psychologists refer to something similar as cognitive narrowing. Under stress, attention becomes focused, decision-making changes, and simple tasks become surprisingly difficult. People forget information that they knew moments ago, and again, that doesn't invalidate the experience, it just simply offers a possible explanation. But of course, the internet tends to reward dramatic endings. As the elevator game grew more popular, so did increasingly extraordinary stories. Some claimed to return home only to discover objects missing from their apartments. Others insisted that family members behaved differently. One person believed that their pet no longer recognised them. But that can happen with hamsters.
Please put an end to this. People need to get back to work or finish their lunch or something.
Another person claimed photographs in their house had subtly changed. These accounts resemble a broader category of internet folklore, sometimes referred to as reality shift stories.
Nutters.
They rely on inconsistencies rather than spectacular events. A misplaced object, an unfamiliar memory, or a friend insisting a conversation never happened. Each incident is small enough to dismiss, but together they create an unsettling impression of something fundamental changing. Human memory, however, is far less reliable than most people realise. Research has repeatedly shown that people confidently remember events that never ever occurred, a bit like you and losing your virginity. They misremember conversations and overlook ordinary explanations to everyday mistakes. Our brains don't record reality like video cameras. They reconstruct it, usually with remarkable accuracy, but sometimes with surprising errors. Perhaps the most believable accounts are also the simplest. Players who abandoned the ritual halfway through because they became overwhelmed by fear. People who admitted nothing supernatural happened, but confessed that they never wanted to try it again. These stories lack impossible claims. They simply describe an experience that was deeply unsettling. And in some ways, these may be the most revealing accounts of all, because whether the elevator game opens a doorway to another dimension or merely reveals how powerfully expectation can shape perception, one fact remains consistent. People who fully immerse themselves in the ritual often leave convinced that something happened. Not always something they can explain, and certainly not something they can prove, but something they continue thinking about long after the elevator doors finally open. And that is why the elevator game is so compelling, because it plays on your fear. The fact that you play the game solo means you haven't got anyone to back you up. There's no bravado, no laughing and joking in the elevator. You press that sequence of buttons and you expect an unknown woman to get on at the 5th floor who you are not allowed to look at, interact with, and if you play the game correctly, you will then be sent up to the 10th floor, and on returning to floor 1, the doors will open into a different world. That is the fear that plays on your mind after you've been pressing those buttons in sequence for 15 minutes.
I'll tell you what, this story is so engrossing. I think I'm going to go off and play this game. I'm going to get on a train to Stockholm, where I think there is a 10-storey building. I'm going to try it, and I'm going to report back next week what extraordinary events I experienced.
We look forward to hearing your experience.
Absolutely riveting.
If you come back. Because these games have a way of sucking you in. Remember Jumanji? You thought that was just a film. There are people still trapped.
Actually.
People are
Jack
still
Black.
trapped in that jungle. Anyway, I mean, to be honest, we were only 2/3 of the way through my fucking story, but I just can't cope with the haranguing I'm getting from you.
You can't be too. So we've covered every possible aspect.
We haven't covered what happens after you come back.
Well, even here's an hour and 30 minutes. We've been on board this.
Yes.
Do you have to do a part 2 of this one as well, then?
No, because you're just going to start part 2 with, here we go.
No.
My God, isn't it finished yet?
No, I won't, because by that time I will have done the procedure in Stockholm.
Look, 5 minutes after we stop recording, you will have forgotten what this episode was about. So there's not a chance in hell of you going to Stockholm to play the elevator
I can even
game.
remember the 2-7.
Nope, 5 is the second to last button that you press.
Well, you can text me the right sequence of buttons.
No,
Does it
because
work on
if I text it on my telephone, I might open a portal.
Exactly, I was just thinking it might be.
Anyway,
Go for
that
it.
is the story of the elevator game and the
What was the
telephone
name
game.
of the film?
It was the elevator game.
Oh, I see. That was the name of the film, was it? Let me check it out. See what the Internet Movie Database.
Oh,
has
it's going to
say
be a
about
1.
it. Hang on.
Now tell me that hasn't sent shivers down your spine.
No, hang on. The elevator game. The elevate. I can't really spell.
You can't spell it wrong.
Game. The elevator game. Here we go. 2019 it came out. Wow. You won't believe. Is this the same movie? It's called The Elevator Game.
Yeah.
A desperate father in search of his missing daughter uncovers sinister events that lead him to a horrifying truth.
That is a different film.
Because that got 7.1 on the Internet Movie Database.
That is a different film. Now I'm going to have to search it out to continue my research.
Oh, there was one in 2023.
That sounds more like the film that I watched.
Yes, that didn't get a very good score. That's only got 4.2. Supernatural horror based on the eponymous.
Eponymous.
What does that mean?
The internet famous.
You're right, eponymous online phenomenon. A ritual conducted in an elevator. 4.2.
Honestly, as soon as it started, I wanted to turn it off. But in the name of research, in the name of trying to present a professional programme for all of our 17 listeners, I thought I would suffer through to the end of this film, and I'm so disappointed in myself that I did. It's possibly one of the worst films I've ever seen in my life.
4.2 is pretty bad. There have been worse. Melania, I think, is 2.4.
Nobody ever saw that.
I mean, it was mildly entertaining, but honestly, the internet phenomenon.
Yes, it is, because you don't understand the internet or phenomenon. I mean, if a guy hitting himself in the face with a hammer can get millions of followers, what do you think pressing a bit of button pressing in an elevator is going to get you?
You're right.
If someone can sell pictures of their feet for thousands of dollars, you're going to get someone who's going to be pressing buttons in an elevator.
What, have you tried that? You've sold pictures of your feet?
Unfortunately not mine, but I have paid thousands of dollars for a picture of...
That's more like it.
Oh, dear God. Anyway...
Well done.
That brings us to the end of this episode. Well, it doesn't actually. It brings us to 75% of this episode. But I had to bring it to a close because somebody was misbehaving. Have you not had your nap today?
What do you mean it's 10 o'clock in the morning? I haven't had a nap yet. That's at 11.
Anyway, join us again next week for another absolutely thrilling story of the paranormal, strange, unusual or weird, where...
Yeah.
Your mind will be open, but Mark's will not. In the meantime, have yourselves a strange week. If you do play the elevator game, please stream it live to the cloud. Otherwise, if you do disappear forever, no one will ever know.
You're right. No one will ever know.
In the meantime, have a great time. And we'll see you same time, same place next week. Bye for now.